You've wasted your sharpest thoughts explaining yourself to people incapable of understanding you. Their confusion contaminates your clarity. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, who mapped the architecture of the unconscious mind. And now you begin to sense the toll. Each attempt at self-explanation drains you, bit by bit. Their blank stares echo long after the words stop. Doubt creeps into places where you once felt sure. In memories, dreams, reflections, this tension shivers beneath the surface. Who looks outside? Dreams. Who looks inside? Awakes. Everything starts to fracture here. The urge to connect, and the cost of showing what dwells inside. A friend, a colleague, even family. You reach for common language and miss the mark. The harder you try, the more isolated your inner world becomes. It's tiresome, this endless translation. Yet you keep doing it, believing some revelation will finally bridge the gap. Worse, you start listening to their story about you. If they can't see you, maybe you're not there at all. Every misunderstood word becomes proof you never truly belonged in their company. That leads to withdrawal. You edit your thoughts before you even speak. This inner censorship masquerades as politeness, but it's really self-defense. Your genuine self shrinks behind a mask of safe responses. In Modern Man in Search of a Soul, he puts this problem under the microscope. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But what if there's no spark, just silence or misunderstanding? You're left unaltered, untouched, unchanged. The inner life atrophies without meaningful contact. Sometimes, you fear the effort isn't worth the loneliness that follows. If you never risk showing yourself, you risk stagnation. Your richest insights calcify under layers of pretense. The urge to be understood collides with the need for self-preservation. That tension breeds frustration, and sometimes a quiet grief for the life you might have lived, if only someone had truly seen you. But isolation isn't the only risk lurking. Sometimes the frustration takes a harsher form. Projection. You see your own faults mirrored in their blank expressions. Every annoyance you feel towards their ignorance becomes ammunition aimed at your own invisible wounds. Your resentment grows in secret, camouflaged as justified disappointment. You claim it's their lack of empathy, their blindness. But the more you insist, the less clear the boundary between them and you becomes. Rage, pettiness, shame, even envy. They surface out of nowhere. Your mind becomes a hall of mirrors, reflecting flaws you refuse to own. The sting of misunderstanding hardens into a private bitterness. Now, the original ache of loneliness has company: suspicion, blame, and a low-grade contempt. You want relief, but habits of mind are stubborn things. It's here that the twist sharpens. The very annoyances that seem so external, so reliably other, are actually intimate clues. In memories, dreams, reflections, he captures this reversal. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. That's the pivot. The reason so many escape attempts only drag you deeper into the same trap. Here is the memorable line. Self-knowledge hides in the places you least want to look, especially behind your complaints about other people. Think about that for a second. Instead of hunting for someone else who will finally understand you, what if irritation became your entry point? You'd have to risk letting go of the comforting story that your peace depends on external validation. The discomfort, the friction, the subtle humiliations, they're not obstacles. They are invitations to touch the raw material of your own unfinished business. This is the part that lands hard. Your need to be understood is tangled up with your refusal to see yourself clearly. Your wounds long for empathy, but they fight fiercely against introspection. You become both jailer and prisoner, hoarding grievances instead of examining them closely. That cycle will continue until you force yourself to confront what repels you most, both in others and in the mirror. Only then can the walls begin to crack. In memories, dreams, reflections, the insight sharpens into a single directive. Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. That's the point where the pattern snaps. When you stop chasing peace across the landscape of everyone else's behavior and turn that urgent search inward. The first steps are awkward and exposed. Suddenly, every complaint burns a little hotter, bearing the craving for approval underneath the irritation. You might notice how quickly you leap to defend yourself or shut down uncomfortable questions. Why? Because to the part of you that clings to old stories, honesty can feel like betrayal. Admitting a blind spot, a jealousy, or a bitterness doesn't just bruise the ego. It threatens the fragile peace those blind spots maintain. But with each honest scan of your motives, the mental drain lightens. No more feeding on scraps of validation. No more blaming every interruption or misunderstanding for the storm inside you. Instead, you start tracing each irritation back to its source. Often, it's ancient, a fear of being dismissed, a memory of neglect, a quiet panic that you are invisible or unlovable unless someone else confirms your worth. The present annoyance becomes a spotlight, showing where you've left parts of yourself unexamined and unloved. The process isn't gentle, but it's freedom, the kind that doesn't depend on other people changing or mirroring your pain. A shift happens when you see that your limits are not the world's fault. Each trigger becomes data about your old wounds, not fresh injuries from a hostile world. That knowledge is power, but it's not comfortable. It strips away excuses, forcing you to own your energy, your judgments, your half-buried longings. Still, the deeper you go, the more you unearth an unlikely strength, a tolerance for friction, a capacity for uncertainty, and even a sense of humor about your contradictions. It's a crucial point in Modern Man in Search of a Soul. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. Suddenly, the exhaustion of always policing your boundaries softens. You're not so easily rattled, nor desperate for reassurance. When the machinery of defense finally winds down, there's room for something quieter, compassion, not just for yourself, but for those who trigger you most. That's the release. With the old enemy, your own distress, finally in view, you can choose to engage, respond, or let go. Every moment becomes an opportunity for renewal, not a threat to your sanity. Your peace can only flourish when you embrace your own darkness. This acceptance paves the way for deeper, meaningful connections. If this resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and comment below. What old wounds have you been ready to face?